Alright, good evening, guys.
How's it going?
Alright, so we're going to be taking a look at Tormented Souls. This is published by PQube, developed by a bunch of indie people. This is a new game in the style of the old Resident Evil tank control survival horror.
Alright.
Now, I have gone ahead and skipped through the intro story cutscene here, mainly because there is unnecessary nudity in it. Where this main character wakes up in a bathtub after going to a hospital, getting knocked out, and her eye is removed. She's got a tube in her throat. On a Steam forum, the developer said that it was to show her vulnerability. I call bullshit on that. He just wanted to put in some nudity, because that vulnerability would have worked just as well in the cutscene. But as a result, I was too lazy to edit it, and I just cut that cutscene altogether.
Fair.
So she's the tank?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I will say this. From a graphic standpoint, there is quite a few moments where it looks very low def. Textures, especially like just now where she took off the Band-Aid and you could see that her eye was missing, were very poorly done. But when you zoom out and you're looking at the game as a whole, it actually does look pretty good.
I was going to say, like, this scene right here, looking at all the textures and stuff like that on the walls and stuff, it looks pretty good. Like, it's definitely better than original Res Evil, you know?
Very true, very true.
So, you start off, obviously, with your typical ability to inspect. You can click on, rotate items, very much like old Resident Evil games. This is a very early puzzle, so spoilers, the lock is the time on the locket.
Oh, who could have guessed?
It's a storyline purpose to it. Like, the whole story involves two girls that were born in this hospital, and my guess is you're one of them, and you were kind of like split, but you were like beckoned back. And the idea is the lock is the time that the girls were born, and the locket froze at the time that they were born. So here I am looking, what time is that to put it in? The first thing that really hit me right away is that the controls are so much better. You saw I was kind of walking around in like circles very like loosely.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't used to actually just pressing up and going up in these games where it used to be like, oh, forward, like up was whatever forward your character was facing. Now here's also a little interesting tidbit here. You have to use the wrench on the door because the handle's missing to open it. But when you inspect the wrench, you can change how wide it's open. And if you don't have it placed to the right one, it won't let you open the door.
So if it's like just too wide, it'll just kind of not do anything.
Right? It's a small thing, but it's a little bit of an attention to detail.
Yeah, that's
the
interesting.
atmosphere is very well done for creepiness. The thing that holds it back is some of the, figuring out the controls, I guess. But it really is some of the textures when it comes to like cutscenes and you're talking to people. But feel free to like comment on what you guys think of the graphics from like this zoomed out perspective.
I mean, this zoomed out perspective, I mentioned already, it looks good. Like the shadows look nice. The atmosphere feels creepy. It does look like you're in kind of like an old mansion or an old hotel, maybe. I know you said it was a hospital, right? So,
well, I guess in the storyline you kind of figured out fairly early is that it is like an old mansion, but it was being used as a hospital at one point, and now most of the people prior to your arrival have been moved to an actual hospital. And when you come in the first cutscene, you see that you get knocked out from behind, and that's what kind of puts this into motion where you wake up naked in a bathtub.
I mean, it's a really nice homage to like the original Res Evil, for sure.
Yeah, it looked pretty interesting so far. Lots of walking around, I assume, early on, but eventually gets into combat and stuff.
Yeah, the difficulty with the first opinions on a game like this is the very beginning is a lot of investigation. Like here, I realize I have to find the right side of the heart before I can do whatever the heck is going to be here with this mannequin. Here's an interesting thing. There's typewriters for saving, and you need consumable ribbon like in the original game to save. Like, it's really going authentic throwback.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it has a very specific audience they're going for.
Now, I guess speaking of the gameplay, you said that it's pretty smooth, even though it's like tank controls.
Yeah, like notice how now I'm moving a little bit more fluidly, but at first, when I was in that first room,
janky,
I was kind of janking moving around, is because I wasn't expecting it to actually move how I wanted it to move.
Yeah.
Right? When you play a game like one of these Silent Hills or Resident Evils with the old like isometric perspectives, the set camera angles in different rooms and stuff, you're used to one way, and it's usually very sluggish, tank-like, as we were saying. But in this, it's just like, yeah, you press the direction you want to go, and you go that direction.
I think the nice thing about a horror game that has that isometric view is it can add to a bit of like a claustrophobic feel, or like when enemies are attacking you from angles, it gives you the sense of panic that you don't get from necessarily a first-person shooter.
I do like that it follows, like the camera follows you a little bit at least.
Yeah, it's not like a completely locked angle.
Yeah, unlike because I remember that was pretty rough.
Yeah, like it's like the camera angles are locked perspectives, but they're not fully like strict on those. In that it will it'll slide into those angles, so it doesn't feel so abrupt.
Mm-hmm.
I am getting some ammo here, which.
It looks like a nail gun.
Yes, the first weapon you'll get, and you'll see it, I do have the first bit of combat in this video, is with a nail gun, and just like, a survival horror game, ammo is limited, enemies seem to take a decent amount to take down, so it won't always be ideal to fight as it will be to run away.
Yeah.
Honestly, I got like a really good... That got me at first when I was playing. I wasn't expecting it yet, because I thought, they're not going to throw a jump scare at me before I get a weapon. But there is like a lot of grotesque, gory scenery.
Yeah. I mean, they gave us the warning at the beginning, right?
Yeah. I mentioned the nudity specifically because I don't remember seeing a warning in like the ESRB notes that it has nudity. I remember seeing like violence and gore. And then that just seemed kind of unnecessary to me.
Yeah.
But it's not any worse than anything else you're going to get.
I do really like the layout, like the aesthetic and all that, like the hand lanterns and stuff like that. That's very cool.
Really, I think that the only shortcoming from a graphical standpoint, and keeping in mind it's a very small development indie
run away!
team, is the actual character models, and their textures are a little lacking. But the atmosphere, the set design, is very well done. The other big negative is about to hit, and it's the voice acting.
Oh.
It seems to lack the gravity of the situation. You'll hear shortly with the priest here that starts talking. He's just talking like we are. Like nothing's going on. Yeah, things are cool, right? Oh, what's going on? I'm in this hospital. No problem.
See, clearly he's insane.
Wait, but that's just... But you get that from the main character. You get that from the priest character. It just feels like it lacks the emotion or the feel of the atmosphere that it's trying to portray, and that voice actors were strictly just reading the script that they were given in their regular voices.
They probably were. I mean, voice actors tend to be pretty expensive, so if it's an indie game, they probably had to, get like very local...
Put it on Fiverr.
Voice actors. But the other thing is, if they're trying to capture the original Resident Evil, remember the voice acting for that? I mean, maybe they were going for that.
I mean, at least there was a sense of panic at times.
Jill sandwich.
Yeah, you were almost a Jill sandwich. Oh, now you got your first weapon. Okay.
Yes,
I'm interested to see the combat with the tank controls again. To see how that plays out.
Here's the problem: I equip the weapon. And I have to keep the lighter on, because when you go into these dark areas without light, the screen gets all staticky, and you just can't see anything. So the first objective that I'm working on here is to turn the lights back on.
Gotcha.
And at this point, like I got my puzzle head on a little bit. I'm thinking, okay, how do I get this so that I can, equip a gun at the same time? But the idea is that you don't. You need to find a way to get the lights back on before you can actually use the weapon. And, simple little puzzle here, spoilers, there's a crowbar. That's how you open the wooden planks across the door. It's actually done very well. The inventory is easy to navigate. None of the puzzles thus far have been overly mind-boggling.
I mean, I don't think they necessarily should be for this type of game. It's more the atmosphere than it's supposed to be like super difficult puzzles, right?
Yeah, it's more about like sending you off into a lonely area to look for the item that you know you need, and then on the way back you get ambushed, that type of thing.
They give you maps. As you just saw, I unlocked a door which was in the hallway earlier. There is a puzzle involved here. I do strategically cut the video when I'm solving the puzzle so that at least the basic easy puzzles don't get spoiled for everybody.
Fair.
But I mean, it's early. You're gonna figure it out fairly quickly. The last little thing we're gonna see here after I solve this puzzle is the first bit of combat. So before we hit that, why don't you guys give me your kind of first opinions here, and if you think you would continue this, even though you haven't seen the combat yet.
I mean, I'm very interested. This is really, really neat. I loved the first Resident Evil game, and this really pays homage to that game with like the style, the way it plays, everything. So I would have to go with a yes. Depending on how terrible the combat is in a minute.
I will point out, it's out on PC and PS5 currently. I'm playing this on PC with a controller, perfectly fine for controls, but it is also coming out shortly for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch.
Okay.
I think if I were into this kind of game, this looks pretty cool and definitely looks very similar, but with more quality, graphical quality, smoothness, and all that. But obviously, this isn't the kind of game This isn't the kind of game I wanted to play back then. I definitely wouldn't want to play now.
All right. So, do you continue after the first opinion?
For me, yes.
No.
For me, I'm gonna go with a yes. I would prefer to play it on console, but the controls on PC are perfectly suitable for that. Hey, did you like that video? If you did, be sure to let us know by clicking the like button and leaving a comment. If you want to be first in line for any new content, be sure to subscribe to our channel and then hit up our Facebook page. The link's in the description below to see what's coming up next.